The first time I saw a tumbler glowing in the dark, it felt like pure magic, like catching a beam of moonlight in my hands. I just knew I had to figure out the secret behind the glow. And as I started experimenting with my glow-in-the-dark tumblers, I realized I had a puzzle on my hands. How could I transfer colorful ink onto the surface and still let the tumbler's glow shine through? I quickly learned that with the right design and a simple technique called reverse sublimation, the process is actually straightforward, and the results are incredible. Hello everyone, Jennifer Maker here. It's a beautiful day to learn how to make a glow-in-the-dark tumbler using reverse sublimation. In this step-by-step tutorial, I'll show you exactly how to prepare and transfer the special glow-in-the-dark tumbler designs that I created just for this project. I'll even share my favorite tips and tricks to get the smoothest continuous seam possible, like why I used yellow heat-resistant tape instead of blue. And along the way, I'll explain how reverse sublimation works so you'll understand the why behind the glow, not just the how. By the end of this video, you'll have your own tumbler that looks beautiful during the day and transforms into something magical at night when the lights go out. To make yours, you'll need one of the glow-in-the-dark tumblers from my supply list, a sublimation printer with appropriate ink and paper, a crafting-specific convection oven for heating, and some heat-resistant tape. Before we jump into printing, let's talk about the secret behind these glowing tumblers, a technique called reverse sublimation. Now, with regular sublimation, we usually try to pack in as much color as possible to cover every inch of the blank's white surface. We don't want empty spots in our design. The more color we apply, the brighter and more vibrant the design looks. But with glow-in-the-dark tumblers, the magic comes from thinking in reverse. We actually want those light spots. Here's why. The tumbler itself glows from underneath the design. So wherever the design is lighter or even completely white, the glow can shine right through. Wherever the design is darker, the ink blocks the glow. Even bright colors will block the glow if they're printed with lots of ink. But if you get the design just right, you can change the glow's color. That's why all three of my designs are made with starkly contrasting elements. The bold, dark silhouettes in the foreground give way to soft, glowing highlights in the distance, creating a sense of depth and magic. So by day, you'll see a detailed forest, stream, or mushroom path. But by night, those lighter spaces turn into glowing highlights that make the whole scene come alive. If you're ready to make your own glow-in-the-dark tumbler, head over to my free resource library at jennifermaker.com/767 to grab my free designs. Click Get a Password if you need one or enter the library. Then search for design number 767 and click on the project file to download everything you need to get started. Inside the download folder, you'll find 3 PNG tumbler wraps, a glowing mushroom path, a forest lit up with sparkles, and a serene stream. These were all specially designed with the help of AI and image editing software, and they fit the glow-in-the-dark tumbler in my supplies list. If you're not sure how to unzip the folder, go to jennifermaker.com/svgs for a quick tutorial. Next, let's take a look at our glow-in-the-dark tumblers. These are just a bit smaller than the 20-ounce skinny tumblers I typically use. Since these reverse sublimation wraps are designed to create a seamless, continuous pattern, it's really important to start by measuring your tumbler carefully so your design lines up perfectly. Feed the small edge of a looped measuring tape through the window like a belt, then put it around the tumbler. Carefully pull the tape's edges away from each other. Make sure the tape stays straight and tight, then note the number where the arrows meet. That's your tumbler's width. Write this number down. My tumbler measures 9.19 inches, but yours may be slightly different depending on the brand. Next, use the looped measuring tape to measure and record the tumbler's height as well. Mine comes in at 8.1 inches, but again, yours could vary. Having these numbers on hand ensures you can adjust the design as needed for a perfect fit. If your tumbler's measurements are a little different, you can adjust the wrap size proportionally in Google Docs so the design fits seamlessly. Next, open Google Docs in your computer's web browser by going to jennifermaker.com/Google-Docs. You need a free Google account to use Google Docs, so click Create Account to sign up or enter your email to log in. Click Blank Document at the top left to open a new document. Then go to the File menu and click Page Setup. Set the orientation to Landscape to match your Tumbler wrap's orientation. Make sure your paper size matches your sublimation paper. I'm using 8.5 by 11 inch or letter size paper with a weight of 105 grams. I like to use thinner sublimation paper when making tumblers because I have fewer seam issues and a more consistent color transfer with it. Then change all 4 margins to 0 so you can use more of the page for your design. Click OK to adjust your settings. Next, click Untitled Document at the top and name your file. Go to the Insert menu, select Image, and choose Upload from Computer. Navigate to the PNG folder you downloaded, pick one of my free designs, and click Open. Select the image and click Image Options. Under Size and Rotation, make sure Lock Aspect Ratio is selected. To make sure the design slightly overlaps at the seam as intended, add about 3/16 of an inch or 0.188 to the width of your design. I changed my width field to 9.37. The height will adjust automatically. Click the wrap text icon so you can move the image freely on the page. Then drag the image to the center so its edges don't get cut off. The design is ready, so go to File and select Print. Under Destination, make sure your sublimation printer is selected. Click the arrow beside More Settings to select Print using System dialog and open your printer's full settings. Your window may look different from mine, but you can use my settings as a guide. Double-check the sublimation printer and paper size settings to make sure they're still correct. Choose the highest print quality option and select the best matte paper setting. Since we'll be transferring the print face down on the tumbler, check the option to mirror or flip your image horizontally. Don't skip this step or your design will appear backwards after transferring. This is really important if you have words in your design. Load a sheet of sublimation paper into the printer. If you're not sure which way it goes, check the packaging information or printer manual. Once everything is set, click Print. Let the print dry completely before handling it to avoid smudging the ink. If you'd like to design your own reverse sublimation wrap for your glow-in-the-dark tumbler, I have a workshop that shows you exactly how to do that in my Advance with Jennifer Maker program. I'll walk you through each step to customize your design in Canva, from choosing the perfect elements to create contrast between dark and light areas, to lining up the edges for perfect seams. Find out more at jennifermaker.com/advance. Now let's wrap our tumbler. Lay the design face down on a Cricut Bright pad or light box so the edges are easier to see. Next, grab your heat-resistant tape. I like to use yellow tape to seal my seams. Since it's thin, it doesn't block too much heat during the transfer process, so the color stays consistent even where the print overlaps. It's also stretchier than blue heat-resistant tape. This makes it ideal for securing the print to the curved bottom of the tumbler, as well as the tumbler's rim. Place a strip of heat-resistant tape along one of the seam edges, so it covers a 1/4 inch of the print's edge. This strip of tape acts as a barrier when you seal your overlapping seam later, so you don't end up with too much ink and a dark seam line on your tumbler. Use scissors to trim away excess tape at the top and bottom. Flip your print face up and use a paper trimmer to cut the taped seam edge so no white is remaining. Cut away excess white paper along the opposite seam edge. Trim across the top edge, but leave a little extra white at the bottom for taping later. Clean your tumbler with a lint-free cloth and rubbing alcohol to remove debris or skin oils, and let it dry. Wrap the design snugly around your tumbler with the ink side facing in. Take a moment to align the top edge carefully so everything sits straight, and make sure the elements in your design are oriented the right way before you tape it in place. For the best results, it's important to wrap your design as tightly as possible around the tumbler. Any pockets of air can cause faint, blurry ghosting marks in your design. I'll show you how to keep everything snug as we go. Flip the tumbler and wrap upside down, then tap the edges on the work surface. Use the wrap's visible print edge at the tumbler's bottom to line up the seam. Then pull the print as tightly as you can to help prevent ghosting, and use a clamp to hold it in place. Lay the tumbler on its side horizontally. Make sure the taped edge is against the tumbler and the loose edge is on top. Place a vertical piece of heat-resistant tape securely along the loose edge, near the middle. Then pull it tightly across the seam and secure it on top of the taped edge. Secure the top and bottom edges of the seam the same way, and add additional tape to secure the middle areas. Remove the tumbler clamp, then apply a long piece of heat-resistant tape along the seam from top to bottom, leaving a little excess tape on both ends. Pressing outward from the center, use your scraper to press the tape down tightly along the seam to seal it. Make sure to press the print against the seam where it lifts at the overlap too. Even a little bit of space here can leave a white seam line. Now hold the tumbler with the bottom facing you and the excess tape in the north, or top position. Use scissors to snip the print along the edges of the excess tape, just to the rim of the tumbler. Pull the excess tape and the attached paper tab tightly toward the center and press it firmly onto the tumbler. Use a scraper tool to make sure there are no air bubbles. Then add a strip of tape in the bottom side south position, rotating the tumbler if needed. Snip the print along the edges of the excess tape. Secure the south piece of tape securely to the tumbler and scrape out any bubbles. Then secure the east and west sides of the tumbler's bottom, as well as all of the intermediate positions, for a total of 8 pieces of tape. Next, cut the 8 paper tabs between the tape in half. Then continue securing each of the halves down with heat-resistant tape. To secure the top of your tumbler, pull the excess tape from the seam over the edge and press it to the inside of the rim. Then add and secure heat-resistant tape in the cardinal directions, intermediate directions, and all around the tumbler's top edge, just like you did for the bottom. Use your scraper tool to go over all areas of tape to make sure your print is tightly secured. We're almost ready to apply the heat, so open a window and turn on a fan for ventilation. Sublimation produces fumes, so good ventilation keeps your workspace safer. Place a silicone baking mat onto the Sublimation convection oven's wire tray to keep it from rolling. Then place an oven thermometer in the center of the oven to make sure the temperature is correct. Set the temperature for 375 degrees Fahrenheit, or 191 degrees Celsius. I'm using the settings that I found work the best for this type of project, but if you're not sure where to start, check out my Sublimation cookbook to get time and temperature settings for tons of sublimation projects. Slip on a pair of heat-resistant gloves. Grab a shrink wrap sleeve that is the right size for your tumbler. I'm using the sleeves in my supplies list, since the sleeves that came with my glow-in-the-dark tumblers melted into a sticky mess in my oven. If you use the ones that come with your tumblers, I found that wrapping the tumblers with butcher paper protects your mat and gloves if the sleeve melts. Slide the shrink wrap sleeve over the tumbler and shrink it with a heat gun set on low until it hugs the shape and stays in place. Try not to focus your heat on one area for a long period of time to avoid starting the sublimation process prematurely, and make sure the wrap isn't too tight or it will pull apart in the oven. Let the tumbler cool completely, then place it horizontally on the bake mat once the oven comes to temperature. Heat for 6 minutes, rotating a half turn at 3 minutes in. When it's finished heating, let it cool on a cooling rack for 1 to 2 minutes. Then peel away the tape and wrap to reveal your design. And now you've made your very own glow-in-the-dark tumbler using reverse sublimation. Even fresh out of the oven or off the press, these glow-in-the-dark tumblers look so cool. But the real magic happens when you can see the tumbler glowing with your reverse sublimation design. Now you can use any light in the house to charge your tumbler, but for the best glow, let your tumbler sit in a sunny spot and soak up the sun's rays. Then, when the evening comes, admire their mesmerizing glow. And to keep your tumbler looking its best, always hand wash it with a gentle soap, warm water, and a soft cloth, and allow it to air dry. I just love how sublimation encourages so much creativity like this. That's why I put together my Sublimation Made Simple guide. Instead of stressing over printer settings and worrying about which supplies you need, this guide gives you clear, simple directions that you can follow at your own pace. And the best part? You get to spend more time making those bright, colorful projects that you've been dreaming about. You can find it over at jennifermaker.com/sublimationmadesimple. And don't forget, if you'd like to learn how to design your own glow-in-the-dark reverse sublimation designs, head on over to jennifermaker.com/advance to find out more about my Advance with Jennifer Maker program. And as always, I would love to see your finished glow-in-the-dark tumblers. So be sure to join us on Facebook at jennifermaker.com/sublimation-group and share a photo. And that's it for today. Until next time, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft a life you love.